It's the first day of the 11th month of the year 2018. A very good evening to you. My name is Ndiro Ganga, and it's always a delight knowing that you've taken your time and are keeping us company. I am, again, Ndiro Ganga, ready to bring you up to speed with all the matters making headlines in the business world. And as you know, we're all about business. Here's a glance of some of the headlines.
We are systematically closing down the loopholes in government procurement processes that create easy opportunity for graft.
World Bank Ease of Doing Business report launch. Come one, come all. Kenya's message to investors. 14th Conference of Parties press briefing. Time to rethink our priorities.
The Association on
Liaison Group launches post-retirement medical insurance product, planning for the inevitable. Thank you for staying with us. Now on to our top story. The World Bank Ease of Doing Report 2019 was released yesterday, ranking Kenya at position 61 out of 190 in the world. Today, the president hosted stakeholders for a roundtable breakfast meeting to reflect on Kenya's past and deliberate on the future in the area of doing business. Our reporter Karari John attended the forum at State House and brings us the following report. Take a look.
To mark yet another milestone in Kenya's prosperity agenda.
In the latest report by the World Bank on Ease of Doing Business 2019, Kenya was ranked position 61, a 19-place improvement from last year, where it was ranked position 80 out of 190 countries. To this regard, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta hosted a stakeholder forum at State House, Nairobi, to celebrate and recognize the efforts of those who made this ranking possible, as well as chart a roadmap of getting Kenya to position 50 by 2020. The President took the opportunity to thank all stakeholders for their participation, leading to the positive results.
I want to take this particular moment to appreciate each and every one of you for the role that you have played, either individually or collectively, to help our country to record such a remarkable improvement in the ease of doing business. In short, this is nothing more than a thank you breakfast. Without a doubt, since I took office in 2013, it has been my administration's singular focus to position Kenya as the preferred gateway to Africa for regional, foreign, but also for domestic investment.
Despite the positive strides, the President recognized that corruption poses a great threat to national development and growth, and as such, highlighted the measures the government has put in place to fight the vice.
On the issue of governance and the war against corruption, this is a work in progress. We are systematically closing down the loopholes in government procurement processes that create easy opportunity for graft. We have strengthened the capacity of our criminal justice system, all the way from the investigative agencies to the judiciary. We continue to cooperate with international agencies to monitor and recover the proceeds of corruption, as was mentioned earlier. Most importantly, we have started to hold individuals accountable for their actions. I want to tell you that this is not going to be a walk in the park, but we are determined to stay the course and root out corruption from our midst.
The President went ahead to highlight the reforms his government had undertaken, which earned the recognition of the World Bank.
The 5 reforms that have been recognized by the World Bank for Kenya this year, propelling us higher than we would ever have been in global rankings. These are getting credit, protection of minority investors, resolving insolvency, paying taxes, trading across borders. Excellent reforms in these areas, amongst many others, made since 2014, have elevated us from number 136 in 2014 to 80th last year, and now today to 61st out of 190 countries globally, meaning that in the space of 4 simple years, we have risen 75 places and 19 places since last year alone.
Former Cabinet Secretary, Trade, Industry and Cooperative, Aden Mohammed, who now heads East Africa Community Regional Development Ministry, was recognized as having led the team that worked towards enabling an ease of doing business in Kenya. In keeping up with the momentum, the president retained CS Mohammed to the position of being the team leader of Ease of Doing Business Task Force, taking the responsibility away from the current Cabinet Secretary, Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, Peter Munya.
And CS Aden has led this process for the last 4 years, and I believe he has done a commendable job. And me, I'm a believer that if you've done a great job, we should let you continue doing that job. Because, you know, as much as we change, my friend here has also many great attributes. But there are things that, you know, require that historical knowledge. So, CS Aden, I want you to continue leading, driving, and coordinating this particular exercise until we cross the 50th mark.
A better business environment here.
On his part, Deputy President William Ruto challenged the private sector to play their part in supporting the government in job creation.
We expect that the benefits that come from more investment, more savings from reduced government processes, that it should not only go to your bottom line, but it should help us also expand your businesses so that we expand jobs for young people and opportunities for women. We do expect that that will be the natural course of things as we continue to work on improving the ease of doing business.
With a positive ranking coming at a time when the nation is faced with stiff regional competition from emerging economies, the question begs, will the country fully embrace the opportunities it presents and with it cement its place at the East African Economic Hub? Reporting for Bram Plus TV, I am Karari John Wambugu.
I thank you for our President, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, and his deputy.
The United Nations Environment Programme today held a breakfast briefing at the UN headquarters in Gigiri. The briefing was on the upcoming 14th meeting of the Conference of Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity, which will be held on the 17th to 29th November 2018 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. Take a look.
Actually, reporting on environmental and sustainable development.
With the theme of this year's conference being Invest in Land and Ecosystem Restoration as a means to achieve biodiversity, 2 key biodiversity protocols shall be discussed.
This is again under the umbrella of...
And the convention has 2 protocols. One protocol relates to what we call biosafety. Looking at how the movement of genetic materials would affect not only human health and human well-being, but also the health and status of other species. So that we call it the Cartagena Protocol on biosafety. The second protocol is the Nagoya Protocol on access and benefit sharing. Simply put as ABS, it's been popularly known as ABS.
Kenya, Rwanda, Eritrea.
Further to this, the place of the ecosystem in achieving biodiversity shall also be given preeminence due to the economic potential it bears.
Climate change seems to be like the overriding agenda, but we often forget that biodiversity is actually even more critical. It is actually forming the foundation, and for Africa, it's also the foundation to adapt to impacts of climate change. We talk about rainfall and droughts, floods and droughts as some of the impacts of climate change, and you realize that ecosystems like forests can help to regulate rainfall. And if there's a regulation of rainfall, then the impacts that come from drought are less negative, or the reach of these impacts is less when they are functioning ecosystems.
Another interesting area that will be discussed at the conference is bushmeat. While one school of thought argues that indigenous communities need bushmeat for their nutritional values, others argue that if legalized, the demand will outweigh the supply, thus endangering the species.
It has been realized that campaigns and strategies and action plans in the past have demonized bushmeat to the extent that even the communities that traditionally rely on bushmeat for their nutritional values are prevented from accessing bushmeat. So now, one of the agenda items is to discuss how do we enable indigenous communities and local communities to continue benefiting from bushmeat for their food and nutritional requirements, but at the same time ensuring that this can be sustainable in the long run, and then addressing the vices that are related to bushmeat, because bushmeat becomes complicated when it becomes a commercialized trade. Bushmeat becomes complicated when you introduce illegality, because there's no control system or policy, laws and regulations to control it. So that is where it becomes a problem. Then the demand for bushmeat outstrips the supply because it's also dependent on poaching rather than sustainable means of harvesting of bushmeat from wild species.
While climate change is a real threat the world is grappling with, only 1% of national budgets across the continent are set aside for the Ministry of Environment. The conference hopes to bring such issues to light and push for more allocations towards environmental conservation and protection.
The Association on Environment.
On that thought-provoking note, we head for a short commercial break, but do stay with us as I still have so much more lined up for you on the other side, including some good news for retirees. See you shortly. Welcome back to the most comprehensive, exclusively business news bulletin in the country. Now let's turn our focus to matters old age. The non-banking financial service consultancy Liaison Group has today launched Suluhu Umbrella Scheme. A first in the country, it allows members to port their medical cover through their pension and draw income down in one platform. Our reporter Daisy Ombo attended the launch and has the details.
Speaking during the launch, the managing director Liaison Group, Tom Mulwa, pointed out that the scheme is not only unique and innovative, but also a fast mover in the marketplace.
Sulu is quite innovative, not in only the way it's going to be delivered, but because it is responding to a very specific and very emotional need in our lives. Somehow it's sad that after the age of 60, the underwriters are not very motivated to extend medical insurance to us.
Actually, our partners.
The MD further outlined what the scheme aims to achieve within the insurance sector.
In other words, the life expectancy across the world, and more particularly in Africa, has actually increased to what it used to be many years ago, maybe. It is a good problem to have, really, to know that we are going to live long. But we must be proactive to plan our lives after retirement. We have been treated well by our employers and by our businesses in that they extend very generous medical covers while we are in active service. But as we exit, there's a danger that you may not enjoy the same kind of medical insurance. And that in itself is actually a big risk and a very worrying risk.
While acknowledging the country's insurance penetration being at less than 5%, he urged stakeholders to diversify their offering so as to drive up the figure.
It is true that the penetration is actually below 5%. The good news is that 5% is actually one of the best in Africa. And we are saying that we don't have to wait to be 10% or 15% to bring the good things which come with post-retirement medical scheme. So it is not a bad thing to start now, so that at least we can actually motivate more penetration. The more we bring value propositions in the marketplace, the more the penetration actually will increase. If we stay non-innovative, then we can't motivate the penetration. So this is one way of actually motivating insurance penetration.
Now with the new act...
In attendance was the Chief Executive Officer of the Retirement Benefits Authority, Nzomo Mutuko, who pointed out the regulatory body's support for organizations innovating to grow the industry as well as the pension members.
So we are very supportive of innovation in the industry. We do support organizations that create innovative products for the betterment of the industry or for the benefit of their members.
Our insurance was wow.
Under the Suluhu umbrella scheme, a member can contribute both for retirement and a medical plan. And on attaining the retirement age, the funds for retirement will be utilized to secure a retirement benefit while the medical fund caters to their medical cover fully. For Brown Plus TV Business News, I am Daisy Wambua.
The Capital Markets Authority today launched the 8th volume of its Capital Market Soundness Report, a research publication by the authority. Our field team was present and brings us the following story.
The Capital Market Authority is an independent government regulatory agency responsible for supervising, licensing and monitoring the activities of market intermediaries, including the stock exchange, the central depository and settlement system.
That will be highlighting when you see the presentation.
Today, it released its 8th edition Capital Market Soundness Authority report for the year 2018, which seeks to inform policies and strategies within the Kenyan capital market space. The publication also serves to put in context major economic and capital market events globally, regionally and domestically, and their impact on our industry and its players.
Strip out the risks that come with
CEO Capital Market Authority Kenya, Paul Moreithi Muthaura, noted the existing trade wars among its developed nation and how it translates locally.
We continue to highlight and acknowledge the reality of trade wars that we are seeing in the market and looking at the trickle-down effects that those are having on not only the cost of goods, balance of payment implications for our economy, but also looking at what opportunities may arise in that context, more so when you look at issues around Brexit and the increasing outreach of the UK government to some of its traditional partners, look how they can deepen those relationships as they try and assess the implication.
The CEO pointed out, though East Africa is the fastest growing region in Africa, but still needs to deepen its market and economic amongst the member states so that it can withstand the competition from other African nations.
I think we're glad to note that when we look at the continent, we continue to see East Africa as the fastest growing region on the continent, but we must be conscious that due to the size of the 3 largest economies on the continent, they really do have a disproportionate impact on overall assessment of Africa's growth trajectory. And I think that further presents a challenge to us that even as we seek to grow, we also need to significantly deepen our markets, our economies, to make sure that we can counterbalance the significant influence that comes from Angola, South Africa, and Nigeria in terms of assessing continental movements and growth.
All hopes are the Capital Market Authority will continue to develop all aspects of the capital markets with particular emphasis on the removal of impediments to and the creation of incentives for the longer-term investment in productive enterprises.
Now let us take a look at how the markets performed today, and here is a summary. That is just a summary of how the markets performed, but for more in-depth analysis of the same, tune in tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for my next big bet with Rachel Nderitu and Karanji Daniel. Now let's take a look at the day's weather reports. That was it from our business news desk tonight. Thank you very much for watching. Catch us tomorrow, same time, same place at 9 p.m. Have a good night.